Hello everyone. A very, very good evening to all of you who have tuned into our Thai University Masterclass session for today. I'm absolutely looking forward to this session with very keen ears. On behalf of Thai Dubai, welcome. I don't want to take too much time today as we have this amazing session, the story in your business pitch, learning the do's and don'ts. But I do want to talk a little bit about Thai in case anyone in the audience may not be familiar and does not know much about Thai. I think whoever logged in earlier may have seen updates on the Thai University MENA program. I will just talk a little bit about that as well. In a nutshell, Thai is an organization that fosters entrepreneurship globally. What started as a conversation, a small gathering in Silicon Valley in 1992, has turned now into more than 15 countries having 60 chapters. So how Thai functions is on 5 main pillars, namely mentoring, networking, education, funding, and incubation. While Thai has a global reach, we make sure each chapter gets to focus on the local ecosystem. There are some great programs which we run for all the entrepreneurs here in the UAE. The mentorship program, which is fantastic. There's the Thai Women program, Thai University program, powered by Rack Bank this year. There's a lot more that's happening. And it's not just a pitch competition, it's more than that. It's a program that is actually going to help you step forward a lot more than just win the pitch competition. As you can see in the visuals, we have launched this year's Thai University MENA program. It's a pitch competition application that we are taking in now. The deadline is February 13th. You can go to thaidubai.org and apply over there. It's very simple. If you have an idea or concept that you're working on, you can involve your universities as well and do write to us if there's any support that you need. So the global winner will actually get a total cash prize of $100,000 with the first prize at $50,000. The MENA winner will, this is the first year thanks to Rack Bank and the support, we are able to launch prizes here as well, which is 15,000 dirhams, sorry, not dollars, dirhams for the winner, 10,000 for the first runner-up and 5,000 for the second runner-up. The winner also gets to fly to Silicon Valley for the finals that happen in May and pitch directly over there. It's a great opportunity. We will work with the selected teams, not just the winner. We will continue to mentor you as well. So basically head to thaidubai.org and you will find the application form there. If you know a student, if you are a student, make sure you apply and give yourself this opportunity. So Thai Dubai is the Middle East chapter of Thai based in Dubai Internet City and has been around for more than 19 years now. The easiest way to be a part of this community and to get to know about all our events and programs we run is by liking us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube to access all our events and programs. You need to just look for Thai Dubai everywhere. Moving on to the session for today, I am more than pleased to introduce our speaker, Dr. Manoj Nakra. He hates it when I call him doctor, but I have absolute respect for his wisdom and knowledge. Someone who actually makes you think on your feet and question your thoughts and actions rather than spell out things for you. So listen to the full session, ask him questions on the Q&A and chat. He loves to keep it interactive. Manoj, besides being a charter member of Thai Dubai, has done several stints on his journey. He's a co-founder of Cater and Skip. He was the CEO of Waterbase Limited in 1990, a company he listed on the Mumbai Stock Exchange. He was then the CSO of Apparel Group, a retail company in Dubai. He was the executive director of Dubai SME, a government organization that catalyzes entrepreneurship. Manoj is a mechanical engineer from IIT Delhi, an MBA from IIM Bangalore, and a DBA from Case Western Reserve University, USA. He sits on the advisory board online platform Invoice Bazaar, and Trunks Company, a luxury brand, and is also an author for his book, A Thousand Days Adventure, a book on entrepreneurship. He's now busy creating an online startup ecosystem for incubation, acceleration, teaching, entrepreneurship to K-12 and college students, and crowdfunding. He does a lot more other things. I'm going to take too much time, I think. So, Dr. Manoj, the stage is yours. So, audience, please keep it interactive, ask questions, and we'll be here to. I will just very quickly play the video once again so that if, for the benefit of the people who joined later. I leave it to you, Manoj. We can very quickly,
Can I
before
start?
you start, I just have a very quick poll. We can just find out how many students are there in the. You can start, Manoj, but I'll just run this on this side so we have an idea on the.
Okay, good. Thanks. Can I, my screen, I believe, is visible now.
Yeah, we can see a screen.
Thank you.
You want to
Since I
go
can't see
slideshow?
anybody, so I'm going to close it. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Cicely, for that introduction. I'm a startup entrepreneur, much more than anything else. So I'm going to just share some of the thoughts and ideas. Just as a little bit of introduction as to why should I be speaking about pitching? And the company that I've co-founded with my co-founder by the name Skip, it is a startup company investment platform. We are an angel investment platform. 5 angel networks in India use our platform. Plus, I'm a member of 3 or 4 angel networks. And I think every week one is listening to 5 or 6 pitches. And in the last 1.5 years, we've probably got 3,500 applications go through our platforms, and roughly 1,000 angel investors use our platform across the 5 networks. So to a certain extent, one has developed an intuitive sense of what works and what doesn't work. And what you're seeing on the screen is that between the time an entrepreneur makes an application on our platform and by the time he or she pitches 2 weeks after the application is in and accepted by the angel network for pitching, the pitch deck on an average changes 7 to 9 times. The second thing which all of us need to be sensitive to is that after you pitch to a group of angels or to customers or to anybody else explaining what your business is about, each time you pitch, questions are asked which nudge you to refine the pitch deck. And we have seen that it takes 3 to 5 presentations real time with people to get the questions to refine the presentation. And these numbers, you will just kind of have to get the experience of. As far as possible, test out what you do so you can just keep refining it. And therefore, like in entrepreneurship, you just have to keep trying again and again. If the product or the service doesn't work, it's exactly the same with the pitch decks. Uh, in a funding journey, if one starts with something called a pilot round where you're going to family and friends for capital, and then you go for your seed round and then an angel round or a pre-series A, then a series A and onwards, pitches evolve depending on the status of your business. And what I'm focusing on in today's presentation is essentially the pre-seed, seed, and the pre-series A round. And the reason for that is that that is the area in which I have more experience than anywhere else. And I hate to speak about things that I don't know. Even from a pre-seed to a pre-series A round, the pitch deck dramatically changes. So remember that when I'm talking about it, I will try my level best to fluctuate up and down this chain. And in case there are questions, we can take them as they come. I just want to focus on one element of this presentation. I have consciously focused on pitching for capital. And I'm not saying that this cannot be used for a Shark Tank or a Dragon's Den or a startup competition. But the adaptation of the ideas that you will get from my presentation have to be adapted. They cannot be used in a very cardinal black and white way. You'll have to adapt it to not only your own startup, your idea, your business, but also the objective that you have. But it's certainly not meant straight away for a Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, or a competition. Why do I say this? Is that the way I'm presenting this deck to you is that I'm not going to tell you that create a deck which is a story. Create a good deck. Its simplicity will make it a story which will become easy to understand. Remember, a story is not a pitch. The pitch can become a story. And so the traditional storytelling style, which people talk about very often, I think a lot of them who talk about it have never done a pitch in their life or listened to a pitch in their life, is that you have a hero, he lives a normal life, he suddenly encounters a problem and he says, yeah, I'm going to fix this, builds a solution and gets a purpose and dedicates himself to solving a problem. It's too simplistic. And therefore, a story is not a pitch. I'm also not going to give you any how-tos because Google can do it for you. I don't have to do it. There's enough stuff available on Google on step-by-step creation of a pitch. 99.99% of them really don't work. That's a caution from me. The most important thing I'm trying to do in this presentation and every presentation that I make, I'm going to help you my attempt will be to help you clarify your thinking. Why do I say this? Because you guys are entrepreneurs. And if you are going to have the creativity, innovation, and the commitment and the perseverance to create businesses, you don't need anybody else's guidance. You're quite capable of doing it. And if I clarify your thinking, you have implicit capability to discover what the right pitch for your business is going to be. I'm not going to tell you what you should say as an entrepreneur. I'm going to tell you what investors want to listen to when they wish to take a decision to invest. And there's a big difference between these two. And right during my presentation, I will try to highlight these differences. So very clearly, the story is not your pitch. It is actually the angel investor's investment story. how investors pick up ideas from your pitch and convert it into the story that they understand is far more important than your story. And you have to be careful, or we have to be careful when making pitches, that how does every idea that I put forward connect and become an investment story. So before we get into how investors create a story, let's understand who investors in early stage businesses are. Investors are people with a very distinctive thinking capability. And the way they weigh different ideas that you present to them is very, very unique. Its uniqueness lies in the fact that you have to attempt that every pitch slide, when it is added to the previous slide, is more than the sum of the parts. The combination of the information in one slide to the next to the third has to be additive in a multiple manner and not just 1 + 1 + 1 is equal to 3. The uniqueness of angel investors is that they've been entrepreneurs before, most of them, and they know for a fact that whatever you're presenting to them as a pitch, it's going to change in the journey. Because they've done it, they know what it takes to create a business. And that interpretation is what they do. The second thing is that they are very much capable of balancing risk and safety. But they are not people who play the casino. They do not gamble. However much people say that the statistical ratios of an angel's success are pretty low, 1 in 30 becoming a large company. But yes, but they are very careful and cautious investors. Just to share the statistics with you. So you can imagine, this is obviously from America, which does a fair amount of research over many decades, that if the total number of investments are 1 to 5, the positive exits that they see in their portfolio is just 7%. If it becomes 6 to 10, it goes to 8. And if it becomes greater than 50, only 15% businesses have a positive exit. Now, you can imagine that out of 100 investments, 15 are positive. But of the exits, only 35% for the category of 50 and above are successful. So it's actually 15 into 0.35, which is 5 investments will give them positive exits out of the total exits. That is the risk that they take, but it's not a casino. Another facet of an angel investor is that they are very conscious of trying to add value to your business. They look for investments where their experience, knowledge, intuition, understanding can genuinely add value to and they are very forthcoming with it. You just have to reach out to them for help. And therefore, the people whom you select as investors in a company or a startup is also a choice that an entrepreneur often makes. A very important difference which we must bear in mind is that rarely do angel investors evaluate ideas. They evaluate execution capability, executability of an idea, and not the idea's value. The idea is not relevant, its execution and development is. And the second thing that they focus upon is if an idea starts, what's the growth strategy that this business can have? So, hate to say it, but rarely ask an investor, is my idea good? Ideas are only as good as you execute them. They also are aware to the conventional wisdom, you can still make it work. And that's the real insight of an entrepreneur, that even if the world is going against the traditional thinking, there is a strong possibility that the capability of the entrepreneur can make that contrarian idea happen. And that's why when they come into a pitch session, they come with a totally open mind, even if they have seen your pitch deck. So as the pitch progresses, they start to develop their thinking. They don't start with the fact that this is this nature of a business, and now I have to look for contradictions in it to say whether I should invest or not. The other factor which I want to focus upon, that MBAs when they become investors versus entrepreneurs when they become angel investors, there's a fair amount of difference. MBAs do a lot of technical evaluation. They want to look at numbers very quickly, and numbers in a startup don't really mean anything. They get into all kinds of questions, assuming that the world is predictable and the way it is planned by the entrepreneur, it will get executed. The entrepreneur knows plans are rarely going to stand the test of scrutiny or execution, and plans adapt, and therefore their way of looking at a business is very, very different. The key element of your pitch is very simple, that it's the same dots, but when different people will connect the dots, they will see a different image. And you have to consciously connect the dots. You cannot assume that everybody will understand the logic, consistency, and your thinking through the pitch deck. You have to make sure that they understand it the way you wish to, rather than they assume and imagine, like in this image that I'm exemplifying it with. So let's look at probability of a startup success. The first key element of any startup story is who. And in all the full scope of an investor, they look at probability of a startup as a function of who, what are they doing, where are they doing, and how are they doing it. And I'm going to elaborate each of these simple words. So the first element is who are the founders, which is the team. Now this is a real slide from a pitch deck. I've obviously camouflaged the names. So here is a company, startup founder, which comes and says, this is my name, I'm the founder, this is the co-founder, this is the CTO. It obviously means nothing. So it's a waste of time, waste of slide. The same entrepreneur with a little amount of guidance now starts to connect their background to the business that they are trying to do. So they are into agriculture technology. So it's talking about that somebody has worked in agriculture. Somebody has worked in R&D and product development because of the nature of the business that they are. And somebody is an expert in data, and this is where they have worked. This is still incomplete. The next slide, I'm going to show you what a complete team looks like. This is a startup which got funded. The founder came from Vedantu, EdTech. Another member of the team is a learning designer from an educational company. Another person comes from Princeton, is a game designer. And somebody else comes from an EdTech background. And here is a person from Swiggy and Deloitte. And this is a category head of a startup company and ran it for a period of time. All of a sudden, even if you don't know the business that they are getting into, you're suddenly starting to connect the dots that this founder was a co-founder in a startup. So this is probably the second startup, and therefore has experience of the challenges and the opportunity that a startup creates. He scaled it. Here is an educator who's a learning designer. EdTech requires understanding learning, how learning happens on a two-dimensional face of a screen. Here is a person who's a game designer, obviously focusing on the UI UX of the learning process. Here's a person from engineering who came from EdTech. And here are two people who probably are in the growth business. So you can clearly see from just a designation to partial experience to starting to connect what this business is about. And this company was an EdTech, into the EdTech business. It comes back and I'll share what it does later. So what you have to focus on in the team slide, how do you or a member of your team add value to the business that you are starting, either by having done something before, or through domain expertise, or through experience of a customer, or experience of anything else, but it needs to be connected to the startup that you're trying to do. And the emphasis of that value, the confidence has to come from what the founders have done. And this is the right team. Always, I mean, I'm using these words, but you ignore the words. The fact is that there has to be a person in today's day and age who understands technology and knows how to make it work. There's a person who has to have the numbers knowledge. And there is somebody who has to know design. Now, the reason for design into this slide is simply based on the fact that there is no startup which does not have a technology backbone. And if it has a technology backbone, the user interface and the ease of customer usage and experience becomes an extremely critical factor. You'll appreciate if technology, business insights, and design can mix, you probably have a very much of a right team. Now, I'm just sharing a bit of a complicated slide with a lot of text. I apologize for that. But this ladder is used by a private equity venture capital firm in the US to define how startups evolve. And it's called the ladder of understanding where you are. So traditionally, when we start on a pitch deck, we just have an idea, it's a customer need. We have just an intuitive understanding of what the market is. And then we build it up to collecting a team, take the idea, take advisors, have the capacity to build the product, and it just kind of scales up till we get customers, we understand unit economics. And then these terms I will share with you later. But broadly speaking, this is the journey of a startup's evolution. What we have done in my startup, we are launching a platform called Capital Raise, which is essentially, as the name suggests, is for entrepreneurs as a tool for them to raise capital in engagement with funding organizations, angels, venture capital firms, etc. And I'm just going to show you a question of the tool where we help you assess the quality of your team. So we have a ladder of 9 steps, and at the first stage, we are just a team of 2 co-founders with different complementary sets. And if one of us has personally experienced the problem, it just adds value to the team. And if we have experience in building products, it adds even more value. And if we understand the market and how it operates, and we have connects in the industry, you can imagine how an investor will look at you. If we have a clear go-to-market strategy for sales, then obviously it's right now a theoretical strategy. But if you're focused on sales and ready for growth, the investor gives you more points. And if we can lead the company through growth because the team has done it before, it's additional points. and our team is now recognized in the industry as a market leader, then obviously you've reached there. And if you're about to sell your company or do an IPO or get into a merger with somebody else, a totally different skill set is required at this end of the journey. So what I'm revealing to you is that when you look at this, you understand where you are as a startup. If you're still in college and you just have an intention to do a startup based on your interests and your capability, you are obviously going to be at this stage. At this stage, if you are, it does not matter because every business starts at this level. Rest is an evolution. Nobody comes and says, I'm at level 6 or level 7. So bear in mind that this is your own assessment of your needs to make your startup work. This is not an evaluation and a judgment that you are a good or a bad startup. And you need to be extremely careful about that. Sorry. Apologies for that break. The second element of understanding the success, the probability of success is what? What are you doing? And this answers the fundamental question, the problem that you are solving. Now, what I have discovered in 99.9% of presentations that one sees, that there is, when we just say, what is the problem? A lot of entrepreneurs just describe the product that they are making or the product that they have made. But what they want people to understand is that what the product does is what was not available, and therefore that is a problem. And this is a completely incorrect way of talking about what you are doing or what you have done. In an entire presentation to investors, the nature of your product, the quality of your product, what it is going to do is usually very, very irrelevant. More important is what describe the problem. So it shows to the listener, why are you solving this? Why is this problem an important problem to solve? So this is another slide, a real slide of a deck, which says, my problem is that there is no product to conduct soil testing. There's no product to give data. There's no product to guide farmers. And there is no technology to replace chemical fertilizers with organic fertilizer. The minute an investor looks that there is nothing in the world which does this, they know this entrepreneur doesn't know what he's talking about. Because all you have to do is Google soil testing, Google organic nutrients, Google guide a farmer, and you're going to get hundreds of answers. So non-availability of a product is not a problem. If a product has not been created to solve a problem, who is the issue? Is nobody in the world has looked at this as an issue and you are the genius? Could be, but very rare. And this particular case, and I've camouflaged the product, by the way. So the logic is that this is a probe that is being built by this particular company. And they're saying that this sort of a probe doesn't exist. But the fact is, this image itself will tell you that we have probes to do what happens, or this even is trying to talk about. So this entrepreneur, through guidance, revised his pitch deck. And now he suddenly says that soil testing and crop planning is costly and time consuming. And there is limited information on how products will be used to guide farmers. and there is very limited farm monitoring when actual crop is growing. So what has happened is that from the problem of a probe, it has now become the problem of a farmer. And therefore, the connection between what they wish to do to what is the problem in the market starts to become tangible and real to the listener. So this is another startup of their deck, which said that generations after generations of women in India are suffering from poor hygiene access facility. There's a growing women's health and safety issue on sanitation, and lack of women hygiene affects products. Retailing is a big challenge in India. So it's interesting that in the same deck, they had a slide, which is this. And when they came to this slide, they explained that in a city in India, when a lady is going for work or shopping and a washroom is not close by, can I create a platform by which, if they wish to visit a washroom, they can locate a washroom close to them? And what this company is actually doing is going to cafes, fashion retail stores, coffee shops, and telling them that I will manage your washroom. I will keep it clean. It will be completely spick and span. It will be certified every day. However, I need only one thing from you. If somebody comes with my app, please allow them to use your washroom even if they are not shopping at your store. And all of a sudden, what they were solving the problem of is accessibility of washrooms in public spaces which a person can discover and use. And what is interesting is that when you discuss this idea with 100 women or girls, 95 of them will download the app and keep it. It is that extent, to that extent, it's useful. So you can imagine that the problem that they defined and the solution that they are offering has no connection. And again, in the platform that we have made, when we get into the problem, we again start to discover a similar scale. And here we say that we have identified a specific, important, and a large problem. And these three words are very important. Solving a vague problem, which is not important and is not large, is not the basis on which a startup gets created and funded. A startup can get created for a smaller problem, but it's not usually fundable. And the fact that the team has identified a way of solving it can execute it. And it offers a superior value. And we can explain to users how this solution will work. And we have enough data about the customer's problem that we are solving. And our vision for the problem and solution is being taken by users. So there'll be certain startups in the Thai competition where they already have customers, and certain startups which will be at an idea stage. And this particular line becomes applicable to people who are testing the product with real customers. And it will demonstrate then that what you are trying to pitch for is capable of achieving a larger market growth. And some of the startups that I looked at Thai in 2021 were certainly having a wider impact and solving the problem. And some of them, obviously not the ones which I looked at, were on the way of becoming a leader in solving the problem. Now, what I'm trying again to focus upon, you don't have to be good in each one of them. You need to be able to demonstrate very clearly in your pitch that you have identified how to solve it. It has greater value, and you have done microscopic tests with customers to reveal that this is a problem worth solving. The challenge of pitches is that opinions usually don't matter. Data does. And at this stage, the team starts to connect with a good problem. Now, when we come into where, the challenge is I have a team, I've identified a good problem, but where are you doing it? This answers the question that is this problem worth solving? What's the size of the prize? This is a way of saying what's the size of the market which has this problem and is worth solving. And these are terms which, as some of you may already know, but I'm just mentioning for the sake of bringing it up, that the total addressable market is, if you take an ocean and you're doing fishing, all the fish in the ocean are the potential addressable market. In the proximity of the boat is the market which you can address easily by moving the boat around. And where you are immediately fishing right now is the obtainable market, where you know that if you keep fishing here, this is the potential revenue that you will generate. And the challenge for us is, all this is fine, but what is a good market? So in simplistic terms, whenever a startup starts, they always go to a small market very close to where the entrepreneurs are physically present. And that's where they want to show the product and show that it is understood and is being pulled by people who want to pay for using it. As you establish it, you go to the next one, and then you scale up to the bigger one. And this journey happens for everybody. The three words, TAM, SAM, and SOM, basically is the smaller market, the larger adjacent market, and the big market that you have the vision of capturing. And so when Americans do it, they talk in terms of, if every customer in the whole world was going to buy my product, what would that opportunity be? And the service is, what portion of the market can I address? So it could be India, and what the service obtainable market could be the city of Bangalore for the sake of argument, or this could be the world, this could be the Middle East, and this could be the city of Dubai. But still, what is a good market? The most important factor when you start a startup is the growth rate of that industry and the market. Higher growth rates in an industry are a very big opportunity. And a classic example of this is that during the pandemic, every edtech organization and every e-commerce organization had 30 to 40% growth rate if they had any product of any consequence. Even bad products were selling. So high growths become an opportunity for an organization to rapidly grow and get customer attention. And this is how a slide was used to present TAM, SOM, and the serviceable obtainable market. So this venture defined the market as precision agriculture. And they said this is the source of the data. 5 trillion is the agriculture industry globally. The total, if every customer bought the product, if the Indian agri-tech market buys it, it's 24.1. And if the people close to me buy it, it's 3.4 billion. Numbers in the third one are wrong, because it was supposed to be the first target market that you will focus upon, which is within India with geography that you wish to focus on. And then it changed. All of a sudden, once they understood and defined the problem correctly, they said this is the size of the agricultural market. And this is the farmer families that I want to target. Why do I want to target this number of farmer families? Because this is the number of families which have a crop yield which is very low. And through introduction of technology, I can solve the problem. Can you see the refinement of the problem to then define the target market? But again, no growth rates. Another person in the edtech business says, this is my target market for 12 months from the time I want capital from you. It's going to be the 13 states of India that I'm focusing upon. So divide the geography, focus clearly, and they say that in these states, the total number of students are this. And if we have a 20,000 average fees, the tuition market is valued at 64,000 crores. So now you have suddenly defined the TAM as something which is accessible within the geography in which you're operating, and you're not taking the American definition of TAM, that if every person who's a potential consumer in the world wants to buy it, what will be that market? Here is another company which is in the consumer goods distribution business. And what it now says is the total size of the market is 100 billion, but suddenly brings in the growth rate. And at 14% compounded growth rate, this market will double in 2025. So indirectly, it's telling the investor in gentle gray print that, see, this is the opportunity. The risk of my businesses growing is not there because growth will come naturally. My challenge is that total number of distributors which are there are a lot. Each of them manages 1,000 distributors per brand. So you can imagine one product is sold through 1,000 distributors, and it goes to 12 million grocery stores, which are small sized. And this is what I'm cracking. So you have you've connected the opportunity to also the problem straight away. And that's the trick of presentation. Connect the previous thought with the subsequent thought. Now, when an investor looks at it, the investor interprets it in a slightly different way than an entrepreneur wants to present. When it says that I have a right team and the size of the opportunity is large and it's a good market, these entrepreneurs will have adequate time to test and refine their solution before they can rapidly accelerate. Every entrepreneur needs time. If the market was not growing and you had to fight for the business, then any amount of capital which is given to the right team, they are going to struggle to get every customer because every other competitor in the market is going to be wanting to do it. This is the interpretation of an investor. The ability to give time to the right team, to a good market, to discover, refine, and build the solution. And this is where an important issue comes up from an entrepreneur's point of view. If you have reached this stage and you have defined the market, if you are at a pre-seed stage, you may just have a concept of your product. You must be able to tell the listener of your pitch that this is the information that I have yet to test and establish. This is my intuitive understanding of what I want to do. This is how I will test it, and this is how I will establish it. So what is the investor thinking about you? That here is a person who is humble enough to know that the opportunity exists, but they still have to learn and journey forward. If you're at a seed stage and you already have customers, then the nature of this, what you need to know, is going to be very, very different. But at this stage, a transparency to tell the listener, this is what I know, this is what I have yet to learn and establish, is an extremely prudent strategy in a pitch presentation. It's very challenging for a listener to an early stage startup to somehow get an overconfidence in the entrepreneur that they know exactly what they want to do, and the world is going to evolve like an Excel sheet, which it rarely does. And once again, I have my questionnaire, which is going to tell you precisely the kind of ladder of execution that one talks about. So as long as you know the market that you're addressing and what's the target market that you want to hit, you're in a cool place. If you know that there are regulations or have a strategy for compliance, if it's, say, medical products, you have to be able to understand this. We had a presentation of an entrepreneur in the last years who was questioned on this right till the finals. The ability of initial sales provide evidence. If you're in college and you don't have sales, you still have to test your idea with customers. And when you test it with customers, even if your product is not ready, there are many ways of making a minimal viable product. Do it, learn how to do it, and test it. And then once you test it, the market which you can address proximate to you is 1 billion. Obviously, this is a very westernized number of 1 billion. It could be much smaller, it could be much larger, depending on the geography which you're in. And if your basic idea has got interest by people who want to distribute and market your product, you're even in a better place. Now, if you notice, at every stage, I'm giving you a test of how to test how an investor will look at your business. Every point is a plus point for you. If you believe that the supplier and a distributor understands what's meaningful, you're going to make it work. If you've started selling and you're selling faster than the industry, great. And if you have started to get partnerships which are going to help you develop the business much bigger, even better. And if you are now sure that you can grow and you can go and list yourself in NASDAQ, then you are very clear that you're on the way of becoming a dominant player in the industry. So a good market with the right founding team and a good problem starts to get noticed. So it is at the third element of your pitch that suddenly everybody starts to get excited if the rudiments have been taken care of. But the bigger problem remains. Where an entrepreneur's talking about the problem that they are solving is not enough. Customers have to come and confirm to you as the complementary piece that they believe that the problem that you're solving is important. And you have to now present how does this problem appear and the solution from a customer's perspective. And how important is it or it is imagined. And so indirectly, the investor is asking you, how deeply is this entrepreneur engaged with customers? And then here what happens is, we have 3 tests for a problem quality. Does it make a big difference in the life of the customer? Is it experienced by many people? And is it a problem that has been experienced for a long period of time? And this actually determines the quality of the problem that you're solving from the eyes of a customer. The most important test of any startup is the test of customers' perception. Even in our own startup, we have refined our product in engagement with the customer. The way we understood it in the beginning is not the way it is being experienced. But yeah, we've adapted. So once the entrepreneur has experienced, 2 things come out of engaging with the customer and the validation with the customer. Is it an invisible need? And I'm going to define this. So invisible need is if I want to lose weight, I have to create an awareness that you can lose weight. I have to overcome the hesitation of exercising. I have to educate you how to lose weight. And then I have to convert you. But if there's a person who's aware of the problem, has an urgency to solve it, and is seeking a solution, very clearly this customer is going to beg you for the product, and this customer is going to take much longer to buy. And this is where your understanding of customer psychology starts to come in. So we always say a significant industry problem is in top 3 needs of customers. A painkiller is what you need to have, and a vitamin is what is nice to have. So this is a fitness app. This is a meditation app. Whereas Uber or a GPS of Google, you're going to use in any case. Or you use it now as a part of your life. The bigger issue which we find in technology businesses is that technology solves logistical complexity. Take, for example, during the pandemic, you were getting all goods through home delivery from an e-commerce player. You didn't have to go to the shop. So it took away physical distribution. You have digital products which you download and consume today as software. You need to connect with a supplier of other products. It's a marketplace. So digital platforms, in addition to all this, also solve what we call a logistics problem, is related to the delivery and supply and consumption. And once again, in the CPG case, if you look at this slide, 300,000 distributors take 100 billion through a fragmented supply chain to the store. And what am I going to do is solve all these issues of the distribution chain. So a person in the industry knows that if one link in this chain is removed, there is a great value which is going to be added. And now suddenly they talk of numbers out of that experience. 60% retailers get regular supplies of goods to sell in their grocery store. Only 80% products are available in a store when a customer comes and asks for it. Retail stores don't get too much of credit from the banking system. And this is defining the nature of the problem straight away in metrics. And that's what you have to do. And now, once again, I'm just starting to select the team to the market size and to the nature of the problem. As you will see, I'm connecting each slide to the previous thought process. Here is a person who has patents to their credit because of technology. Here is a person who's managed the logistics business before. And here is a person who's built products for Ola and managed verticals. So all things that somebody wants to do in a logistical chain is able to manage here. And you're now saying, this is why this problem and this team and this opportunity is good for me to solve, and therefore give me capital. Whereas in the agri-business, he brought in the name of the competitors, where once they said there's no problem in the market, and now suddenly there are competitors in the market, direct and indirect. And then talk about what each one of them is doing, and then saying that our patented product is going to work because we have done it, and this is our competitive advantage. It actually didn't communicate anything to the listener. And then they went back and then did an analysis of the market and then said, who are my real competitors? I will measure them on accuracy. I will measure them on speed of data collection and giving it back to the customer. And all of a sudden, their own position in the market started to get visible to the people. And this is another way of presenting your value and your competitors, which is tabular. You can use any one of them. There's no standard way. But the fact is, the importance of your problem perceived by the customer is what is value proposition. And once again, you're able to start to connect everything. Now, this was an example of that company, which was the learning community, which had those 9 people in the or 6 people in the startup table. They wanted to do a social learning community for 5 to 12-year-old people. They got capital. It was supposed to be children who wanted to become artists. And 1 year later, they have become a clone of a social media platform used by school children in the US called Discord. It's no longer a learning platform. It has become a community platform for school children. Please remember, this does not matter. Even if you change your business from the original idea when you started executing, is not an issue. Investors clearly know that change will happen. And this tells us something about the nature of the problem. So a lot of us,
Manoj,
and I'm going to jump through this slide.
Yeah, I just want to say,
whenever we purchase a product, we always imagine that the benefits are tangible. But when we pay a price, it's the monetary cost. But when you walk to a store and spend 45 minutes in reaching a store, 45 minutes in coming back, there's a cost of time involved. Most entrepreneurs that I have worked with tend not to include the value that they add through time saving, cognitive saving. When you see a website which is difficult to go through to discover the product that you have, you're spending time, you're finding it difficult to understand. If you want to ask for details about a technology product and information is not available, it again takes time. So in today's world, the cost of a problem is money, time, effort, information. And that's what you have to focus upon. That a customer pain today, which is the value proposition of your business, is actually the price, the time that a customer saves, and how you make it easier for them to do what they want. And everywhere you have to look for numbers. Now, whenever you have a startup, whether at the early stage or a late stage, focus on giving numbers in your pitch presentation, not qualitative information that this is the time that will be saved. Go into the root of the problem and understand it from the customer's perspective. And that's where the word value proposition, which you are delivering to the customer, starts to flow. And here again, you will see that you start your business with only an understanding of what you will solve. Then you go to customers and validate your point of view. And then you collect data which has evidence that they will pay. Then you get feedback which shows that your solution is better than others. And if the initial customers love your product and keep using it, and you're selling beyond your initial target customers, you know you have a business that's going to roll. And that's the power of assessing your business on your own. So if customers recognize the problem, then the value of the solution, then the startup has legs. And again, how will growth happen? This is a key part because you take capital essentially for growth. So what we usually do, Cicely, I'm going to take a few minutes more and then we can
so the audience is
a little bit longer than normal.
And the audience is
so we focus on validation of the go-to-market strategy, because otherwise you aren't going to get money. And therefore, your readiness for scaling the business is determined by what we call metrics of customer acquisition, how you retain them, what's their loyalty, and are the customers talking about your business. And this is where, on a graph, you have to clearly understand, are you at a stage of testing and trying, or are you at a stage where you can accelerate growth? And if you're going to be here where you're going to accelerate growth, then you better have some knowledge of the magic which happens here. And this is where you need capital for growth. This is where you need capital to establish metrics. Both are capable of being funded, early stage or late stage. And once again, your ability to understand where you are is critical in your presentation. Now, what you have to do in customer acquisition is that you have to be clear where are customers coming to you. All this is nothing but a laundry list of marketing activities. So what you do, where you spend the money, what you get, has it been established? If not been established, not to worry. This is what you are going to test and discover. And then if you're getting customers, then the efficiency of conversion. How many people are taking a trial and how many people are paying you, and then how many people you're able to retain. And then the most important thing is how many people you get and how many people you lose and how many people become referrals for you. If this is managed, then you have a business which is going to grow. And that's where we have a metric, you can Google it, is that the lifetime value of a customer tells me about the quality of the price that I'm charging and the margin that I'm making in the business. Basically, a lifetime value measures the difference between the price and the cost and the number of times a customer is going to buy your product again and again in the entire life of the customer's engagement with you. Little bit technical, but as a pitch presenter, this term in today's day and age will have to be learned by each one of us to be taken forward. And then you have to be very clear that take a educational ed tech, that how many tests were taken by a user. When they said how good your tests are, they gave you a score. When AOV is the order value, the lifetime value to the order value is 3 times. That means they came 3 times back to buy. And lifetime value to cost of customer acquisition was 11. So the value that the business got from the customer was 11 times the cost of acquiring the customer. All this is measurable. If these metrics are available to you on a trial basis, you know that the investor is going to say that they have now established their business and are kind of ready for growth. And therefore, they are at this stage and they can grow. So this is an actual pitch deck slide where they talk of the annual growth rate. They talk of the brands that they have onboarded, how many retailers that they have, what's the order value, and where are they going to grow in the next 6 months. So it's very clear. Here is a company at a late stage being able to communicate to the investor that, dear sir, my business is ready for growth. If you're in an early stage, not to worry. We have other metrics of customer responding to the minimum viable product of your product and telling you that maybe if you build it, I will take it, and how different it is. So if you now have a team, a problem, a market, a value proposition, and a go-to-market, you are in a position to seek capital for growth. And therefore, the question is, how much capital do you need? That's what the investor wants to know, which is called the ask. And the investor wants to know, if I give you capital, how risky is this business? So here we come to some term called channel economics, which is nothing but looking at the cost of making the product, distributing it, selling it through a distributor to an end consumer. If you understand what these costs are, experienced or intuitively understood by going into the market and doing research, you're still investable. And then why this happens is that in a business, as it grows from a seed stage to a series A, the cash flow of a business is always negative. And an investor, actually an angel, is investing your negative cash flow in the hope that you have the capacity to commercialize the business and make it grow to a profitable stage. And this is the cash that you ask an investor for. And the margin, the difference between selling price and cost, is the value that each unit that you sell, which gives you cash, an investor puts more cash into the company and what you're making from a customer, and that fund is used for future growth. So imagine if the margin of the product is less. On every 100 dirhams, you're making 20. You have to sell that many more units as compared to a retail product where for a 45 dirhams cost, you're selling it at 100 dirhams and your margin is 55 dirhams. That many fewer units you have to sell to be able to grow. And that's simple mathematics every entrepreneur needs to have on their fingertips. And as this I've covered, so if this is a traditional profit and loss account of a unit. I'm not going to cover this, but I'll look at the second column. Each entrepreneur needs to know what is the selling price of the unit, what is the margin that they make, what is the overhead expenses that they have, and what is the net cash flow that they have in order to grow the business. This number is usually an important factor of a pitch presentation, even at a competition stage, even at an idea stage, because industry margins are very well-known numbers and can be discovered very easily. So even if you're at an idea stage, you better discover these numbers. So at least your planning is perfect when you're seeking capital. Please appreciate that investors are people who don't mind funding your losses to make you grow fast. So they are very prudent at the earlier stage You're making larger losses, they don't mind. But if you're getting more customers, they are more happy because then they check you for sustainability of customer acquisition and not the quantum of losses. An MBA, when they evaluate this business, will get very worried with the losses, but an angel investor does not. And therefore, they compromise margin for growth. And again, I'm not going to explain this to you, but what I want you to do, get back to Google and just Google LTV to CAC, or just say LTV and CAC, and understand that lifetime value of the customer is what feeds the cash into the business. And slowly your cost of acquisition comes down and the company starts to become positive. The reason I put this slide in front of you, when you start a business, be ready for at least 3 years to be cash negative. So don't get worried if your business is cash flow negative. Focus a lot on growth with a higher margin, with the capacity of the customer to pay, and then you probably have a business that can sustain itself beyond the hump of negative cash flow. I'm going to just go to one element. Yeah. So in shortage of time, very often this word moats comes up in a discussion. A moat is a wall that you build around the business, which competitors cannot come into. Please note that startups at our early stage don't need moats. They are good enough as they are. As they grow, you will build the moats as your scale increases. Don't spend capital on preventing competition for taking your business away. Build and acquire customers. Your ability to defend your startup is going to come over time. Okay, this is an important slide, and I'm going to finish after that. A question which is now often asked is, how will data create value in your business? And every presenter must have an understanding that even if I don't have a sharp idea of how data will give value, you must be able to create a business where data will be acquired. And the value gets added through 3 layers in a company. The first layer is your accounting, your CRM, your human capital management, ERP. This is nothing but every transaction is recorded there, and therefore we say systems of record. The second layer at which value gets added with data is what is now called AI and ML, that we use this raw data, crunch it, understand trends, are able to then do predictive analytics, and then take it forward. And the third layer is systems of engagement with the customer. Once customers become sticky with your business and they engage with you, you can be rest assured that a competitor's ability to take the customer away from you will be that much diminished. And this is why your initial understanding of data and how you will create value is very important. Why? Because when you will start building your marketing database to engage with the customers, it has to start from the first day. You don't have a choice in today's day and age, then you can defer it. And therefore, the data and the technology backbone of a startup is so important for having one key slide in your presentation deck. And this is the network that your company, through social media platforms, is able to create a network of consumers who are engaging with you at all times. To summarize, you have a problem, you have a team, you have a value proposition, you have a margin, you have a customer acquisition capability, you have a large market opportunity, and you have a data foundation, you've got a pitch deck. Remember, at no stage did I add the word product in a pitch deck. So as far as possible, try to keep it as limited as you can. Thank you. Any questions? Lots of questions, Cicely?
Yeah, there are some questions, but I do want to
No, I
respect
don't see any.
time. Um,
Can I look at some of these
I think the
questions?
Q&A, um, the first one, maybe we can just answer one question and
Okay.
we have a gentleman
Uh,
who's raised his hand.
Starting from the top.
Go to the Q&A button. Otherwise, in chat, there's a lot of informal chat as well. But I do see some coming in right now. Can competitors validate your market? By
Don't
Benjamin Hoffman.
have any
You want to take that?
questions. We have too many questions here. Cicely?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I have, it wasn't in the chat, it was in the Q&A.
Yeah.
Dr. Manmohan Singh is asking, in execution capability, what are the key takeaways based on your experience? Essentially, Doctor, it's the what we call so redefine marketing as customer acquisition and growth, and in the technical side, focus on technology execution and customer experience. How does this how is the idea of washroom, coffee shop, etc. was monetized? Yeah, it's already monetized. I have
How does this translate to service
one
companies?
question. How does this translate to service companies who do not have a product? We offer software-led services and we can demonstrate customer stickiness. So, Shobha, it's going to be essentially the cost of customer acquisition, which is the time that you take, and what is the lifetime value of the customer that you acquire. So we find usually that software led businesses which are SaaS versus one time have a very different metric in terms of how it is handled. So a pure consultancy business is usually not a scalable and fundable business, but a consultancy business which is based on SaaS is very much a investable business. For social impact fundraising, Neil, I have absolutely no experience in social impact fundraising. We just rejected one business yesterday in one of the angel networks that I'm involved. And the investors are obviously this thing. And social impact, I can put you in touch with some people who run a social impact fund. You could have a conversation. We can connect offline. Benjamin says, can competitors validate your market? Negatively, yes. Because how can a competitor validate the size of your market? A competitor can only say that this is the market that I am chasing. You may be innovating in the market, and therefore your market may be very different from your competitor. Your products may be not comparable. You may be adding additional value to the customer through your product. So it's very difficult to give a generic answer to this. What is the chance of a non-IT engineering guys raising money from angel investors? As good as anybody else. It's your innovative thinking and the way you do a test and trial of your idea before raising money that works. Is it true that if we create all in-house tech, then it will create more value from an investment? No, there's no correlation between in-house tech and value from an investor's perspective. At the time of investors, at early stage, often technology creation is outsourced, but you need to be able to keep the intellectual property of that technology creation with you. If it is just software writing, it is obviously a huge risk. But if you have taken the trouble to build some innovative capability within the platform, then it will be just as valuable. But it will become a precondition to release of capital that technology will have to move in-house. Because of IP, if IP is not in a company, it's valued less in any case. What would be your advice to sell impactfully sustainable oriented products and technologies, Nasreen? I am clueless on this domain. I've never done it, and I'm not going to hazard a guess about what I don't know. I apologize. How could we connect offline? Through Cicely first, I guess. and then we could do it.
Yeah, I've shared my email.
Yeah, Benjamin is thanking me. So great. Benjamin, you can connect with me through Cicely.
All right,
Yeah.
folks, in respect of...
I have a message on the chat as well. I'm developing a consultancy, and so I don't see the question. And a subscription based on SaaS, I would like to connect. Yeah, sure, through Cicely.
There's one last
That's
question
it,
in
Cicely.
Q&A. One more came just as we were closing.
Okay, there's a Pramod is saying, I have a startup in access management space, which is large but crowded market. With digital identity and IoT, what can we do to prove the investors that this is the case? You got to demonstrate, Pramod, by trying it with customers and being able to attract customers from competition and demonstrating the value that you add. Technical innovation without a customer validation is always an issue.
On that note, I want to close the session. Thank you very much, all of you. There's a lot of them still who's already stayed on.
Cicely?
Yeah. Can you hear me, Manoj?
Okay. How much time periods plan should be pitched to the investors? It could be a 2-minute pitch, a 10-minute pitch, and a 15-minute pitch.
Yeah.
So Kaushik, I'm not giving a recorded session of this pitch because I have used real slides of people now. So
that is one thing I wanted to ask. Can you hear me, Manoj? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Because a lot of people asked for the recording. And I have said no, that we are not sharing it.
Yep. Recording is no. Asking about a startup plan in years. Siddharth, I still am not connecting the two things. You can pitch to family and friends at an idea stage, and you can pitch to investors when you have started getting traction in the market. So we have investors who are prepared to give you money when you have some amount of traction, and you have investors like family and friends who give you money when you have no traction.
Okay. Manoj, I'm going to close the session just in respect of time.
Yeah. So I have a question. If I can share the questionnaire link. Yes, I can share the questionnaire link right now. I can share it in the chat. Shared.
Okay. So have a wonderful evening, everybody.
The second question of Siddharth is a startup plan in years. Once you do a startup and you raise capital, you'll keep raising capital for 7 to 8 to 10 years. Traditionally, 8 years is the usual horizon of early stage investors want to exit in 3, then late stage investors want to exit in 3 or 4, and some of them persist for a certain period of time.
Okay, but Manoj, I'm thinking you can't hear me, but we're going to close the session. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
I just sent it in the chat. Thank you so much. The link.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manoj, for the wonderful session.
From me to the hosts and the panelists, I got the thing. Really? It's not visible? Is it visible now?
It's only visible for the panelists.
Okay. It's sent to everyone.
And attendees.
I'm sending it. Now it's gone to everybody.
Yeah, now it's gone to everybody. So on that note, I'm closing the session in respect of time. Absolutely wonderful session as always.
Yep.
We overran, but the audience insisted that you stay on and finish.
So
I have to.
Can we close for the day?
Yeah, we can close for the day.
Where's Cicely?
Yeah, I will close it. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.
Cicely, we are closing for the day?
Yeah, we're closing for the day.
Hi, Cicely.
Yeah, I think you have.
Cicely, you're closing?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you.